here it is, the inaugural Goatworn Armband plus Friends, name to be decided podcast. This has been long in the making. It's an idea that circulated for quite some time. And finally, I've met people with the recording capabilities to get this together. So with me today, we've got Guthrum of Norvik. We have Just Eastern Things, and we have the legendary Shirereve.
Well, hey.
So, yeah, say hello, guys. So it's not just me in the
hello,
chat.
guys.
Eagle. How's it going, guys?
Nice. So, basically, the format's going to be fairly loose and fairly casual because this is just a bunch of guys talking shit for an hour, I think. But the format is going to be somewhere around as follows. We're going to talk, at least today, about our impressions, what we do, where we come from, where we're going. A little bit about what we've been doing in lockdown, because, that's topical at the moment. Something that will probably be a regular edition will be the question and answer segment with questions from you, the fans. And that will obviously go, priority to Patreon supporters because, they have paid good hard cash to be rendered in 2D and to get their innings. Something else that will be a regular feature will be Farb of the Week, where we will be, between us, reviewing someone's kit that doesn't quite make the cut, shall we say. So I think that's enough kind of preamble. Shall we start with some introductions? Guthrum of Norvik.
Hello.
Yeah, let's hear from you. So you're an admin on what's it called?
Anglo-Saxon posting.
Fantastic. So tell us a bit about that.
It's pretty much just your standard shitposting group, Anglo-Saxon themed, as the name suggests. Although we are a bit heavier on the moderation than others, shall we say. It's basically, it's a friendly group.
It's
Just
all friendly.
don't be a racist dickbag, and you'll get on fine.
Yeah, fantastic. So you also run another page, which is slightly more serious than memes and shit posting.
Yes. I run Guthrum of Norvik, Blades, Ironwork and more. I'm a hobbyist blacksmith. I have been for a number of years, even for years before I started dressing up and pretending to be a Viking. And it's kind of just grown from that. I don't take commissions, unfortunately. But I do post whatever random fuckery I get up to.
Random fuckery sounds amazing. So we've also got a colleague of yours, at least on the Anglo-Saxon posting front, the self-made, self-styled, and self-aggrandizing Shirereve. So welcome, Shirereve.
Yeah, you can buy my Shirereve shavings for $39.99. No, just kidding. No, so that whole thing. It started out a while back at York, and then I realised that's what I wanted to do York. For an impression. And it's just kind of blown up a little bit, really. It's it's good fun.
It doesn't count as blowing up when all the Shirereve memes are made by yourself.
Well,
and posted by yourself.
This is true. However, that's because all the money I make goes to me.
Yeah, fair.
When I collect the taxes, you know.
And finally, we have, last but not least, Just Eastern Things, who, as it happens, has just started doing cartoons of their own. So, welcome to Just Eastern Things.
It's good to be here. Yeah, we started doing some cartoons, kind of inspiration from you, I guess. That's what made me get into being a bit salty in the first was your page, and then I decided that we wanted to do some comics of our own. think the only difference is with our kind of comics is I'm basing them on kind of things that's happened to me, like an event, I guess, and not from the others. But I'm trying to be a little bit just a little bit unique with them. But it's proven to be hard because I'm not creative whatsoever. I use like Imagify to make my memes. I don't specifically go out my way, and I can't paint for anything. So usually I'll be playing a video game and I'll have an idea and I'll be like, oh, yo, Kim, do you remember when that happened? And I get the missus to make the comic for me. But
Well, hang on. Did you just say that you get your missus to make it instead?
yeah, she does the comic because I can't draw.
So is it like a joint thing? You get the idea, she realizes it in, you know,
In full
makes it a thing.
2D.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much actually. Yeah, it's a joint thing. Like I'll
Joint
think
effort.
about it, and she does, because she does it as well. Like the reenactment stuff with me. She is a couple of times she's been like able to come up with an idea for it, or she pointed out like the most recent one was when I was being a bit stubborn. I was like, nah, I'm gonna sleep in a tent at Gypswick, which was a lovely event last year, but it was cold. And yeah, she was in a hotel, whereas I was freezing in a tent.
Yeah, we've all been there, I think.
It was yeah, it was definitely an interesting one. But no, good to be here.
Awesome. So Shirereve touched upon impressions. So I think it's only fair because we're all reenactors, obviously.
Oh, come on, just call me Alex, please.
Oh, okay. I was going to protect your anonymity. Is it weird now that I'm just calling you Shirereve all the time?
It's very strange.
No,
Are you
Shirereve,
regretting making that your thing?
Even with the memes, it's strange.
You could always call him his impressions name, Chad Chaddison.
But yeah, we so you touched upon impressions, and we're all reenactors. So I guess people might be interested to know, obviously we take the mick out of vast swathes of elements of reenactment. So I think it's fair to kind of give some insight on what we do and what we portray. I mean, I myself represent a 10th century Norwegian Viking, so distinctly someone who raided and was a professional fighter, and that's reflected in a lot of my kit is based around the Yarmanbu grave, which is kind of very high end of the mid status, possibly into very high status. All the trappings and trimmings of a warrior and someone who professionally fought. So that was my starting point. But in a kind of very specific sense, I actually portray a berserker, but not in the History Channel bearskin, 2 axes, half naked, woad for some reason they usually put on style. It's more based on looking into the sagas and kind of breaking apart the kenning of Berserker, which I'm sure I can bore people for hours, and I do so at events until the public get thoroughly fed up of my camp and go to another one. But yeah, we were basically looking into what the history, the reality of Berserker was. And as far as I can tell, they were essentially somewhere between a personal guard and someone's personal hitman. The guy you send out to collect taxes, monies owed, favors by force, as well as protect people of importance on the battlefield. And the element of the bare skin being a reference to wearing mail. So that's very much my angle that I take to portrayal and, like I say, bore the public senseless with. So you guys, Guthrum, or do you want to be your real name, or shall I?
Just keep calling me Guthrum.
Okay,
if that's easier.
Awesome. Yeah, it's on the Discord.
Exactly. I'm happy with Guthrum.
Yeah. So Guthrum, your portrayal. What's your angle? What's your?
I'm still fairly new to this, so my impression is still a work in progress, as it is for most people, to be fair. I mostly portray an Anglo-Danish or sometimes full-blooded Danish blacksmith working in East Anglia around the first half of the 10th century AD. So what I tend to do is, at the minute, at my current stage, I don't have a portable forge. So what I do instead is I take my big old toolbox and I empty it out on a cloak, and I bore the public by telling them the purposes of each tool, how it works, and generally sitting there and getting on with stuff. I could be whittling. I could be sharpening knives. I could be making chain, perhaps little copper alloy chain. Um, Anything that I can do without heat, I will do for the time being. Although I do have a forge and the appropriate setup for a forge in the works.
So I think the chucking things out on a cloak is like, it's just a fantastic way, even for a beginner, to demonstrate and
Yes.
display kit. But no, yeah, so that sounds awesome. When you're like displaying your tools, do you do something I found myself doing, and I didn't realize I did it, and I've noticed that other reenactors do as well. So when you get to your favorite tool or weapon or piece of kit, you start stroking it, you hold it in a different way.
Yes, absolutely.
I've noticed this as well, definitely.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to, say, my pattern welded knife that I've finished today. When it used to have a handle, if I that was always my tender item. I'd always show people the pattern and how the light plays across all the different layers of the metal.
You hold it that little more gently. You're a little
Well,
slower in your.
I'm not a gentleman, so there's not much gentle about me. Especially if you look at this knife, it's been put through the ringer. But that's certainly the one I linger on the most. Yes.
Just Eastern things. See, this will be quite interesting because your page, I think next to mine, if not more in some cases, generates an awful lot of salt regarding people's portrayals in how good or how not they are. So I'm interested to hear what you portray in reenactment.
Yeah, my page generates a lot of salt. It's fun because as a Scotch, I kind of dwell on salt. I enjoy it. I relish it. So at the moment, I'm actually in between kits. So initially, I didn't have any idea when I first got into doing kind of Viking Age. As somebody that knew their stuff, and they recommended a couple tunics and some trousers, etc. But over the past kind of year or so, kind of slowly, I've been trying to generate myself to be kind of maybe a 10th century, early 10th century Norwegian. Not so much like a super upper status, but potentially like a second son of a jarl, as an argument's sake. So I'm not going to get the land or anything, but I've still got access to get some nice stuff if I wanted to. But I'm kind of expected to go out and make my own sort of way. Unfortunately, my combat kit dwells a little bit more with Eastern stuff because I do Eastern. So
Well,
I have
it's
to
in the name, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. So I have to wear padding, but we're pretty lucky in that aspect of our group because we were one of the first groups to kind of, instead of going out and getting a gambeson, which obviously we understand doesn't exist, we managed to get some tunics made, which are incredibly thick. They're about 5 layers of wool, but we seamed the edges of them, so it looks like a standard tunic for the age, but incredibly thick. But at the moment, I'm trying to dwell myself to be a little bit more accurate with Norwegian. So I'm trying to get, and I'm going to struggle to pronounce this because not pronouncing things is exactly my thing. A Skildenham tunic.
Oh, Skulderham.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I'm in the process of having one of those created at the moment.
Nice.
And then I quite like the look of them. They're a little bit different, but obviously it's going to be a little bit more accurate for a Norwegian kit. As for trousers, I wear kind of standard Forsbergs, which I hope to see a little bit more of most of the time. I've actually been converted over to the dark side. I wear baggies a lot now because I found a couple of resources for baggies in Norway and Northumbria.
They're very common in on Norwegian Vikings,
Yeah.
especially towards the earlier half of the period.
Yeah, I do feel like MC Hammer walking around in them. I'm not gonna lie.
That freedom of movement though is just awesome.
So they're incredibly good. I think mine are a little bit too big. They've really made very very well. They're all handcrafted, no machine sewing in them whatsoever. And like I specifically paid the extra to get them all hand done. But I think the lady that made them might have used too much material because I do feel a little bit ridiculous wearing them.
To be fair, it was a status symbol. If you had more material put into your big baggy trousers, you were a richer person.
Yeah, they
That's the
absorb
interesting
spear
thing.
hits still.
Because something I found out only recently from actually one of your memes about the was it toddlers with Dane axes or whatever it was?
Yeah,
I like that one.
The army of midget bardishas or what, you know. You mentioned that you're actually quite short, and ironically, in my depiction of you as one of the the League of Authentic Shit posters, you're amongst the biggest people on it.
I'm 5'6". I'm your typical Highlander. I'm small.
So I should have put you as Jace's position, really.
Yeah, I definitely should be like put as a smaller side because it's one of the reasons I use a spear. There's a video that I can try and find out, and someone took some footage of kind of a lineup at Volin, and it's from the Jomsburg side, and they're looking at us because we all got the same shields on. One of the groups portray Byzantine guardsmen, and so they looked a bit unique on the battlefield,
Yeah.
and it looked really really good. And in the background, you can just see my spear. Nothing else. You can tell it's my spear because I wrap blue cloth around the end. So if I ever drop it, it's there. And you got all these towering Europeans. I think the Russians couldn't have been under 6'8". None of them. And then it's just me, just like running up the back. I look like something from Wizard of Oz.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But no, I'm doing that. I'm in the process of getting a new sword, as I mentioned earlier on. I have a sword, but and I'm happy to take some criticism on it actually. But it's a single edge, straight kind of long sword, I guess. But
I remember you showed me some pictures. It's a nice sword.
yeah, it's a beautiful sword, but from my understanding, which I didn't realize at the time, it's a little bit on the earlier side, so about 800, early 900 as far as I'm
Single
aware.
edge is the main thing I find is the location specificity on them. So like they are very specifically Norwegian and seafaring, from what I gather.
Yeah, that's correct. It's
so
very, very Norwegian and very Hiberno Norse.
Yeah, I purchased it specifically, obviously, to go my Norwegian kit, but I've actually I've kind of traded it now for a Type M, which is a little bit more generic, kind of Viking age, I guess, is the best way to describe it. Although
they were fairly well spread.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because it's half the weight as well. But yeah, I'm hoping to portray it Norwegian. I guess is what I'm going fundamentally by. It seems to be the range. Just a couple of us now going Norwegian in here, I guess. And I'm slowly working towards there, slowly but surely.
Oh, nice. So
very nice.
Just to like touch on for those who aren't aware of the Skolderheim tunic, because that's the very North Norwegian find, and it's quite unique. With it has a collar, which is kind of unseen before the period, I think.
That the one with the collar and with the square closing, I believe, was probably worn under a tunic.
So this is the over tunic then.
Yeah.
The square cover is on the under tunic or the shirt, whereas the over tunic that was found in the same context, it's more of a generic V-neck.
Ah, right. See, because I actually made one or started making one a while back, and I was very confused as to which one was supposed to be on top or below. The article I was reading was badly translated, but yeah, it's quite the undertunic is very distinctive. So I'm about to ask Alex about his portrait, and it's you kind of announce yourself in this regard. I mean, I've been calling you
yeah.
the Shirereve, but
It's
yeah, what's this all about?
So my interpretation started off. Originally, I wanted to represent a thane, you know, a man of sort of lower upper status, you know, with his own land and so on, that would allow me a bit of freedom. But what I found is that after I started looking more and more into Shirereves, after I first learned what they were, I've really found myself greatly interested in the whole thing surrounding them, and they're not touched upon. You see the odd interpretation of you know, tax collecting, going around the LHE, harassing people for taxes, etc. But you don't find true impressions or closer impressions to what the people who collected taxes and dealt with executing the law actually had, or more of what they actually looked like. And that's what I started looking into. So at present, I'm basically sorting out not just my personal kit, but a sort of portable office, as you will, with writing equipment, a set of scales, and other things that would allow a Shirereve at maybe a market or a war camp to write up his tax documents, his legal documents, and all the other things he would need to have with him to carry out his duties. And I found that as a high reeve, which is what a Shirereve would generally be, it's actually a higher status than I originally realized. It's actually more sort of towards the Jarl status, and in some cases actually above the Jarl status, reporting only to the king himself. And so I'm starting to up the ante, shall we say, with some of the kit that I'm getting to match that, to make sure that that I have the status that I'm claiming to be. And I've had some really, really nice feedback on the impression I've put together, and it's really, really, really nice to see that people are finding it interesting.
I mean, that's a fair commitment. I mean, I guess a lot of that kit will be quite specific, and as a result, hard to source. I mean, I've seen some of the stuff you've sent me, of course. You said that they'd write. I don't know if it was just an figure of speech, but you said about writing up the taxes. Would these individuals be literate then?
From what I understand, most of them would have been as literate as anyone else at the same time, because we have charters, we have legal documents, we have even tax documents. I think there was the Ely tax document that's talking about someone paying their taxes in eels, and all the different ways that they would record the taxes. So it's clear that these people were literate. And some of the items, well, most of the items we know they used for writing are in context usually ecclesiastical, but of course there are some things that that they would be able to have from that. For example, writing slopes. We only have examples in ecclesiastical context because most of the people who could write were monks. And the thing is, they would have been the people that taught the Shirereves how to actually write, so that a lot of the equipment would have been shared between them. And that's something I've been looking up recently, and I've actually got the equipment to start doing writing. And I'm buying some vellum this week actually, which is not cheap. But I'm making my own ink, and I've made my own sealing wax candles as well, which is made out of pine resin and beeswax, and it seems to work quite well.
That's impressive. That's some dedication. So I've seen pictures of it, and you share enough of your pictures on shitposting groups for people to get a good sense of the quality that goes into it.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
No, I'm not jerking you off here. I'm just trying to segue from good kit into bad. And that was the way to do it. So I'm just scrolling through the general channel because obviously I nipped out for a bit while you guys got set up, and I'm finding pictures of a discussion I had with someone earlier about the kit displayed in Last Kingdom and Vikings.
Oh God.
And
Oh,
it's the
no.
conversation about the Bergenettes,
Yeah.
the Italian helmets on
What,
Anglo-Saxons.
when I first watched that season years ago, that was actually the first thing. I mean, I could almost forgive stuff up to a point, and that was the first thing that I really thought, what the like, come on, like
It's
it's just ridiculous.
the scale armor, as badly as as it's made. At least I can kind of, all right, scale armor was a thing.
At
Fair
least you
enough.
can provenance it within like 500 years.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, it's not even that they're not even the right silhouettes.
Yeah.
In some things, like you glance at even the most farby of impressions,
I think
and you
there
can
was.
kind of go at least. Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
I mean
that's
there was.
supposed to be a Viking.
I think it was the new Robin Hood film, which is pretty atrocious for authenticity. But even like the main sort of knight guys that have the crossbows, if you
Yeah.
look at their helmets, you can see they have the silhouette of those faceplate transitional helms. Like
Yeah.
you can understand where that's coming from.
But I look at these, and my medieval knowledge isn't great, or late period isn't great. But the outline, that silhouette, my first impression is Spanish conquistadors.
Yeah, it's the
That
comb like the Morion helmets that
yeah,
the conquistadors
that's
have.
what it
It's
makes
just
me think of. But yeah, sorry, I was just scrolling through that, and then there's a load of pictures of the varying types. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, we've got our section Farb of the Week. So if the
yes.
editing goes well, at this point on the video, you should be seeing some atrocious kit,
Ah,
um,
yes.
delightfully displayed for your viewing displeasure. So where
Should we
is it?
should we start with the first picture?
Yeah.
Um.
What do you say?
I want
His
to
helmet's
know
very
who's. I want to know who's lost their blanket.
Because like you could take your helmet off at night and then just fold it over and you got a pillow.
I was about to say, it looks like he's let down my airbed.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, so I totally get people wanting to protect themselves and add in a bit of extra padding here and there, and even as far as modern protective gear like shoulder, knee and elbow braces,
Yeah.
like motocross stuff I've seen people use. But
But you wear it underneath.
you wear it underneath. This is clearly someone trying to pass something off as periods, like a sub armily or something. I think it's supposed to be kind of like that. And it's just, I mean, I've made one for LARP, and I put it together in a week out of an old tunic and some wool I scraped off a blanket, and I at least managed to make it look something like what the Romans had. That is just, as somebody said earlier, a blanket folded over and belted.
Yeah.
My argument with this guy in particular, okay, is I do Western. I have done for years, and I do Eastern now, and Huskarl. Eastern and Huskarl can be rough. People know the jokes and whatnot about it. It can be pretty brutal inside of it, and I've had some pretty nasty hits. I've given some pretty nasty hits. I've never ever needed to wear something like that. I wear padding that's correct, and my padding probably cost me less than his.
Yeah. That's the thing that gets me about a lot of Farby kit is it's not even much cheaper than good kit.
No, the thing is, they create these things, so we don't know how much this guy paid for that. Okay, you, Shireve, Alex, you mentioned you do like before you do medieval stuff. So you wear like a
Yeah,
canvas
yeah.
or whatever, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, so even under all my plate armor, I still wear like I think it's 2 layers. My
Out of
my arming
curiosity,
doublet.
How much did it cost you? Just rough ballpark figure.
This one I think was 200, but it is an arming doublet, so it's very well quilted. It's all hand sewn.
Okay, maybe that's a bad example then. But like, if
yeah.
you were to get a brand new member, like, and you asked him to get some,
Oh,
padding,
yeah.
how much is it going to cost him?
Like 50, 60 quid maybe.
Okay, my padding
There's-
cost me £60, custom made for me, and then
Yeah.
this guy's probably paid more for that for this.
Oh, totally.
It looks
Like
terrible.
So my thought on it is that you wouldn't need something like that if you had a wool tunic rather than that.
yes, it does seem to be cotton, doesn't it? The one he's
Yeah.
got.
It's shiny.
Oh, polycotton.
No,
you
it doesn't
reckon?
look like anything. Period. It's unless
Yeah.
he's pretending to be some sort of king and the whole thing's made of silk. That's wrong.
Yeah, because linen is notoriously hard to dye. So to
Yes.
get that depth of color in it is
Yeah.
And if you're portraying that level of wealth, that you can have a bright red linen tunic, you would be
Positively
wearing mail.
luminous.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely luminous red. You wouldn't be wearing, and on a practical note, the padding looks thin as well. It doesn't look
Yeah.
substantial.
This guy in particular, I know we mentioned earlier on. I'm not going to name the name of where you said they were, but we know where they're from. They don't fight in a manner that requires.
No,
heavy
they
protection.
seem to fight in a very standard Western style. So
Yeah. So I mean,
and bearing in mind, I'm in a Western group that doesn't require any padding or a
Yep.
helmet. You can
but
go on the
I've
field
done
with
Western without a helmet as well.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need it for that style. So he's giving himself something to be. In our case here, we're making fun of him because he looks stupid, but he doesn't even need it. They don't
No.
fight with anything that's needed for that sort of aspect.
His kit would look drastically better.
if he just
you
got
know,
rid of the braces and the
Absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, bracers. They're a reenactorism. We've all done it at some point, but
Well,
put
I
them
mean,
under the tunic.
That's it.
under the
For
tunic.
example, in my group, you're allowed braces if you don't see them
Yeah,
because they're tight to the arm anyway. So it's not like you're going to notice a massive bulk in the arm suddenly.
yeah.
You know when people tell me about I'm getting a new tunic made, and people have got leather braces. Do you know what I tell them? Get your arms made a bit bigger. Oh,
Yeah.
it's not going to cost you anymore. It doesn't matter. No one
Yeah,
cares.
it's
Make
like,
your arms just a little bit bigger. Okay, it's going to look a bit stupid if you're wearing it without your kit, like without your braces on. But that's when you start to tell people have one kit for fighting, like a cheap, crappish potentially kit or whatever, and have your soft kit, your nice kit.
Well, that's it.
That's what
I'm
I try to tell people anyway.
I'm getting a nice new tunic done soon for my high status stuff, and I'm going to use my old one as a male tunic because why not? It's not going to get used as much. It doesn't matter if it gets greasy. So when I'm going to go onto the field, I just take off my over tunic, put on a different one, and then put on my male.
Exactly.
Surely, like, you're not going to want to wear a stinky tunic you've wore some armor over and had a bit of exercising because it's going to be stinking.
Yeah,
You want to
exactly.
take that off when you get
Can
back
put a
to the
nice
tent or
fresh
whatever.
tunic on when I get back to the LHG, and I'm sorted.
So I think we've done the padding to death. Well, I say that I could go on for days.
Yeah.
But what else we got? We got see gloves. I'm okay with. This will sound
They're yellow.
Those gloves are actually most of the ones that people I know use.
yeah.
But
People tend to have the common sense
Yeah.
to dye them brown.
they could do with a bit of dyeing or even a bit of linseeding or something.
Yeah, but it's an element of our hobby that we have to compromise on anyway. So
Of course.
it's one of those things. The helmet, however, now the cheek flaps on a nasal.
There's one thing I do want to state. I'm not entirely convinced this is meant to be a nasal. If you look at the flappy bits on the back of their neck, this does look a bit more reminiscent of an earlier period helmet. Think along the lines of the old tuna.
Oh yeah.
Although
rank helm.
yeah, I mean, to me, it looks like someone's bought one of the Armor Arena helmets and stuck some cheek plates on them.
Yeah, I can see that. That would also explain why the flappy bits aren't actually made of metal, like on say
Are they
the old
not?
tuna. No, they're made of leather. Look at the flap about.
The rear
the
flap.
cheek plates.
Yeah.
The cheek plates are metal, obviously, but I'm talking about the rear strips.
Yes,
I
you're
will
talking
see
about
if
the
I can
ones
find a
like you see
picture
on
of the old
on things
tuna.
like the Sutton Hoo as well, where it's like the Roman style.
Lobster type, lobster tail almost. Whereas the old tuna is literally just bars of metal coming down from the rim.
Oh, I think I know the one you mean. Yeah, the one that's more skeletonized.
Oh, the one that's kind of a
Could just
series of
be
bands.
a really series of bands. I think it could
Yeah.
be a really bad attempt at that. Here we go.
Yeah,
picture's
I
now
can see
uploading.
that. Yeah,
Here we go.
we'll pop it up in post for everyone to see what
Yep.
we mean by that.
So here's the original.
Um,
I think that's the original. I thought it was a really good aged replica.
Yeah, I can see that.
You can see what I mean now, because if you were to
I mean, it's
remove
still
that, it would be a funky nasal.
it's still atrocious, of course.
Oh yes,
but,
it is. It is an awful way of showing this.
The other thing, the Danax is too long.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But I want long Dane axes because it makes me feel better.
Overcompensating for something, are we?
Are we now on to the second photo?
I think
yes, I think that's
look at the rest of this kit. Yeah.
I see. Yes, I thought we were doing it photo by photo. In
Nah,
which
fair.
case, I can really rip into this one.
Oh, go for it.
Look at the length of that belt.
Yeah.
Ah,
It's the reenactment.
Look at that
it's
weapon
the
tucked in
knot.
that belt. Do you want to cut your knob off?
Why? What do you mean? Are you telling me?
Maybe
he
that's
have
why
a
he
sharp weapon in the belt?
maybe that's why he has all the padding, because he doesn't want to lose his manhood.
Ah, yes, this makes sense.
And that's a sword tucked into his belt as well, isn't it?
Is there a
Yeah.
sword as well?
It's
my
hard to
God.
tell under all that smoke.
Under all
I
that
think
smoke,
that could be
yeah.
a sword, or it could be a sort of lang
I
sax
can see a
type thing.
sax across the front.
He's got a sword.
It's
on one
certainly a
side
risky
by the
move.
Dane axe. He's got a sea axe at the front.
Wait, he's got two swords.
Yeah.
Oh
Then
my God, he's
another
got.
sword
Oh no.
tucked in his belt.
Oh
And he's got a Dane axe.
no!
So we
Oh
call
my
them
God.
hedgehogs in Eastern.
He's a walking
Yeah,
armor.
they So
Oh my-
in-
Now look
in-
at his leg wraps. Look at the leg wraps.
Yeah, I saw those.
That's your personal pet peeve, isn't it, Alex?
It is my personal pet peeve. I learnt it from our group leader. He hates badly tied leg wraps, and I may have picked that up from him. Yeah, it's those are especially bad.
I mean, I'm not great with leg wraps, but what on earth is going on with those ones?
Yeah,
like,
I'm surprised they're
what
still on
on
his
earth?
legs. To be honest with you.
I mean, that's a fairly nitpicky point compared to the belt
Oh,
arrangement.
totally. The
Absolutely.
belt is
So-
the.
We touched on this earlier when I said, if he's got the tunic of that high status, he wouldn't have that padding. Having two swords
And a Danax.
and a Danax, if you can afford two swords, you can afford scabbards.
Yeah.
And much nicer kits than that. And I think this is a very classic example of a prevailing theme of probably we're going to see throughout these Farb of the Week pictures, is that people have prioritized the shiny, a helmet, sword, and I want all the weapons before sorting the main, the core stuff first.
I mean,
I think
one of the first things I recommend to people when they get into reenactment is a bowl and a spoon as well. Like, just basic kit like that because if you're around the Wick, you don't want to be the person without a bowl and a spoon when food's called up.
Exactly.
Ask a question with regards to bowl and spoon. It's a little bit off topic to this guy, but it's sort of relevant because I've had this discussion with some people before, and I just want your guys' view on it. So I agree completely, and I tell the new members, like, you want to get bowl and spoon and a cup if you can. Just when we eat around a fire at night, it looks better, it feels better, and it brings you into it more. You get to live that a little bit more. How come they're so overpriced in the UK?
I think it depends on
Every
where you go. The people that you see more sort of selling online and stuff. I agree, they do seem a bit overpriced. I know someone who does really really nice work that I tend to get woodwork from.
I managed to pick up a
Yeah,
bowl,
yeah.
a cup, and
I know what you
black.
mean. That get a turned bowl is quite expensive.
Yeah, it's
Um,
very expensive in the UK, and most people don't like it when I say it. But when I went to kind of Volin to buy stuff, people joked about the market being cheap. I picked up a ceramic bowl, which passed Vike authenticity, which I was quite
yeah,
surprised by,
some of the
and a
ceramic
ceramic
ones are quite
cup.
nice.
The bowl was £4, and the cup was £3. You try to
Yes,
get that over in the UK, and you're talking, 20 to 30 each in some
yeah, I
cases.
remember there's one seller that comes to Torm every year. That is from Europe, and they do very nicely priced woodworks. Bowls, spoons, etc.
You say that, but I think it really does depend on who you go to.
Yeah.
Because I was wandering around Jorvik Market, the church market, and I was
Yes.
pleasantly surprised by the potter who was selling in there. I picked up. Granted, it was unglazed, but I'm sure he could do a glazed one with his eyes closed. It was something silly like £3, I want to say. Just a standard clay cup. I've got a terrible memory, so it could have been up to £5, but I remember it being very, very cheap
Yeah, I
for what
got
it was.
I got
And
something.
and a ceramic costrol after the find from Winchester, and I got
Oh
that
yeah.
cheaper than a leather one. All glazed, ready to use. All it needed is a plug making, and that was cheaper than most leather costrals I see. It was £25.
I think this comes back to the whole reenactorism thing of that we were just talking about, and tying it all in of kit being a lot cheaper than people think. You just have to go to the right places.
Absolutely, and
Um,
yeah,
Sometimes it's more expensive to get it wrong.
yeah,
And I
exactly.
mean, here, like two swords. Let's assume that they are about the lower ends of decently priced reenactment swords, and say 150 each. That's 300 quid
you
before
could have
anything
bought a
else.
very nice sword for that.
He could have bought
Exactly.
a very nice sword for that, but he could have bought his entirety of core kit for that as well.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, all his soft kit and everything. Yeah.
And actually, a
Mm.
comment that made me laugh my tits off on the Just Eastern Things page. Funny enough, I think this chap was in the photo as well. Was the like 90 comment arguments
Oh
with,
yeah, yeah.
and they said, "Oh, it's expensive to get it right."
Yeah, was this? I remember seeing this one as well.
Yeah,
We
and
pointed that out to them, but
yeah,
the people he was saying it's too expensive for, and they don't have the money to do it, or they're on benefits, or they don't have enough money because they've got a real life or whatever. These people are dropping £200, £300 on weapons to be
On mass
badass.
production weapons.
Um, and it's like I try to tell people. So I run a shop where I did it. I don't run it anymore. And people would come to me and buy items. Chainmail was what I did. I had a supplier in Russia who built me chainmail, and I tell these people sometimes, like, yeah, you're buying chainmail, but it doesn't really fit your kit. You might be better off spending your money and making yourself look a little bit
Yeah,
better.
you were like the honest garage salesman who tells you, look, we could repair your car, but you're better off just buying a new car. You're being honest to them about what they really need for the
It's
kit they have.
they'd much rather be the badass Viking, and it is exactly as it sounds, a badass Viking looking person with makeup on, a shield, a sword,
Yeah,
but they actually look like, and apologies to swear, but they look like shit. And there's no redeeming features from it because they end up with a really cheap sword that you can go to armor class and buy something better for probably the same money.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
that's it. I mean, it's when you see these guys that I don't know what it is, but there's something about the kit these people buy that, compared to most decent reenactors that I know, if you look at them, they don't fit their clothes, if that makes sense. It doesn't look right. Whereas if you look at guys who have clothes that have been made for them, or they've made them themselves, they look like they've lived in them. There's something about the clothes
they're
that
fitted.
exactly
That's the difference.
they look right, and it's disheartening to see a lot of the guys that they wear their kit like shit, and the kit is often shit itself as well.
I mean, the other thing on it is the unworked wood on that Danax. Like that, I don't know if it's the photo, but that looks like it's still got bark on it.
It's more
I can't.
authentic.
Oh, it does. Yeah, it does have bark on it. What the hell?
Let's have a look.
Near towards the top of where his hand is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that is.
I-
It doesn't look like any bark I've seen, but I could be wrong.
Fair enough.
It's clearly a stick,
Yeah. It's
and unless to my knowledge, I could be wrong here because this is starting to get out of my area of expertise. Unless you are using a Slavic style axe with a round hole, it should not be a round haft.
yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
We have evidence for this. I'd call them Western axes, if you like, but obviously that includes most of Scandinavia. Is the haft was made from a quarter of a log almost, and it
Oh,
had been split specifically. And you get the same thing with spears as well. Everyone thinks, they probably just used coppiced wood for these because it's obvious it grows straight. It must be right. No, that is not what we have evidence for. It is the evidence we have is of exactly the same. It is a split bit of wood they have planed round.
yeah. I've seen a rather fantastic kind of blow by blow of the process, and it's one of those things that once you see it, it makes all the sense in the world, and you think, well, why didn't I think of that in the first place? But yeah, that's another thing that bothers me is these unworked wood, unworked antler handles.
Oh boy, unworked antler.
We're not talking about the Neolithic era anymore. We're talking about the early Middle Ages where people had textiles. They weren't wearing fur anymore. They knew how to make things look nice.
Yeah. Exactly.
Had been doing so for about a millennia or so. But
Well,
yeah.
I mean, look at the start of the Roman Empire. That was what, a couple of 1,000 years earlier.
Mm.
So it's no excuse to say that they had this elite image that you see of like the Vikings TV show where everything's unworked. It just doesn't make sense for the context of the time.
The best way I've ever heard of the Viking Age being described is it was a bleak grey time. Naturally, before people came along, it was a bleak grey time. They didn't have entertainment. They didn't have books readily available. They didn't have paintings readily available or anything like that. So it was a very grey, very bleak time. But then people came along and they don't like that. Naturally, people do not like that. So they did everything they could to make it bright. They worked antler to make it bright. They worked wood to make it not look like the natural world they are inescapably surrounded by. They made things look manufactured. They were not left raw.
That's the best a really good way to describe it. Yeah,
that is exactly the way. That's how it stuck in my head.
Mm.
When someone finally put it like that to me, I was
That's
that makes sense.
Image. Yeah.
Should we rate this farb then?
Ooh.
How
Yeah,
we do a currency before we do this? So are we going with a generic accepted?
I think we should do an arbitrary. Whatever you want to rate it out of.
All right. In that case, Guthrum, what do you rate it?
I rate it 2 out of 10 polyester cotton.
All right, Just Eastern, what are we saying?
1 out of 10 free war bands of England.
Oh, that's a strong measurement. Shirereve, Mr. Alex, What arbitrary value are you going for?
I rate it 1 out of 27 stolen duvet covers.
Man, I mean, the first image, I would have given it maybe 3 grains out of a salt shaker. But seeing the
Yes.
2 swords and the full picture, that it's half a grain of salt out of a salt shaker. So we'll leave this poor gentleman alone now.
Yes.
And we've got some questions already. I posted up a post today.
Oh, we got some good ones, did we?
Yeah, well,
did.
we've got one. So this one's kind of for me on the Patreon site, and then we've got a couple of fun ones between us on my post I put up. So we'll start with the Patreon question. We had one from Dylan Glover, who says, "Hey lad," so I'm assuming he's older than me. "How much does Fuckbringer weigh? And what is the overall length? I'm interested in making a long axe to bring some far-reaching smackos to my group, so I'm chasing some sources." So I've not weighed Fuckbringer.
I like the expression "far-reaching fuckos."
Yeah, that's kind of. I think far-reaching smackos.
Oh, sorry, smackos. Yeah.
But yeah, fuckos works. So I've not weighed Fuckbringer. But his overall length, when I first had him, and I put it on the first half, he was up to my sternum. So that's about 120 centimeters, maybe 130. Because I'm 6 foot, so that's where I needed it to be. But that was a much lighter half than I've got now. And obviously, everyone saw the video where he smashed him clean over that knight's head.
F.
F, yeah.
F in chat, boys.
Yeah, Fehu to pay respects. So I got him rehafted at Tewkesbury, or rather, I sent a friend who was going to Tewkesbury to visit the stalls, where Fuckbringer went on a bit of an adventure because a load of my mates recognised it in the medieval reenactment groups. So they started taking selfies with it and passing it around. So some people put it between their cleavage. Somebody else toaster racked it in their arse cheeks.
Oh no!
The
This
night
is why Corona spread.
The night I this sounds Fuckbringer spread COVID-19. New theory. When it got to my my mate in the medieval plates, the guy I did that fight with, he's actually he used a drill and scored his initials onto the inside of the socket.
Oh my god.
Which if anyone else had done that, I'd be mad as fuck. I'd be absolutely livid. But I kind of love the guy, and obviously we've got that rapport. I'm kind of okay with that. Anyway, so it got hafted on this whopping great hexagonal medieval haft, for a halberd.
I know the ones I've got a couple of them. They're great to use, but they are thick boys.
Yeah, for a Danax, for Scandinavian Danax, it was absurd. And whoever had done it, they hafted. So they obviously wore down one end to fit the axe head, but they didn't they didn't shave down the rest of the haft. So it looked insane. It made the axe head look really tiny. So I've since cut it down and reshaped it because it was as tall as I was, and that is just excessive for a Danax. So it's now just below my chin. Actually, it's a little less because I cut it down the other day after a test swing. So it's kind of between my sternum and my chin. And going by historical sources, they were shorter the ones we found, but the depictions and the way the axis balance suggests that was the kind of length, proportionate to an individual was the best for, the mobility and the flexibility of its use. So that's where I've gone with that. So if you're going to get your own Danax to lay the smacketh down on your opponents, I would, rather than go for 2 meters like a lot of people do, between sternum and chin, but gradually reduce the length to see what suits and what what you're able to move around with.
That's the advice I've been told. Put it up to your chin, and then keep swinging it every time you cut a little bit more off, and see what you think the sweet spot is.
So yeah, Dylan Glover. Hopefully that goes some way to answering your question. Take a look at the Bayeux Tapestry if you haven't already. That gives you an idea of what they looked like in the hand of warriors using them. That's a good resource. And again, the advice that's been given here: cut it down a little bit, test it out, see how it feels. Cut it down again, but don't cut too far, or else you end up with a hand axe. So we got more questions from the Facebook page,
Yes.
where Just Eastern has already been responding to one of them. Ross Cronshaw, who is another one of my Patreon supporters and has a very, very nice Roman.
His late Roman impression is sexual.
It is gorgeous. And if anyone is trying to put a piece of kit to mind, he's the one I've done artwork of, and he's got the scale armor and the angry burb sword with that kind of angry bird hilt.
It's a wonderful looking blade.
It is. It's the Duck of Death.
For those who know the guy that made it, he does wonderful pieces.
It's beautiful.
It is. It really is.
Ross obviously sent me quite a few reference pictures for when he wanted his art done, and it's all brilliant. And I had to kind of have a cold shower after reading through them. But he asks 2 questions because he's chancing his arm a bit here. But question 1: how much salt is too much salt?
Never
Does
enough
that
salt.
Never enough.
Yeah, I'm not aware that there is too much salt.
So I've pondered this as well, because obviously I channel salt. I get creative with salt and kind of spend it as well, making the memes and just sharing it with everyone, repurposing it, shall we say. And I think the amount of salt where you can be annoyed enough to nitpick it but be constructive about it is the right amount of salt.
Definitely.
Hypothetically, being salty enough to kick a member out of your group for liking memes, I think is too salty.
Is that referencing the situation that happened about a week ago?
Yes, it is.
Yes, I remember you saying
thought I was
about
quite
this.
subtle about that, but if you know, you know.
I don't know.
Oh, we'll tell you what, we'll do that in the post podcast chat.
Okay. If it gives me material and I can reference it, I'm all ears.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'd say that's too much salt. So question 2: who would win in an arm wrestle between a Roman and a Viking, and why does the Viking always lose? To which Justin Easton has already said, "Fight me in real life." And it just escalated.
Like
in classic fashion.
I mean, I'm going to defend. In my view, unpopular. If you're speaking about if we do real life, all right, and you speak about your probable farmer who jumped on a ship because one of the local people has a ship or whatever and decided to go raiding, they're going to be fairly fit to an extent. We understand that. I don't think they're going to be as fit as a soldier who's done 25 years service.
Yeah, in terms of the Roman army, you're talking about not just. I mean, you could argue Vikings are career warriors, but they are not drilled and they're not career soldiers. which I think is one of the differences. Whereas you could say that the Romans had the concept of career soldiers before it was even a more mainstream thing.
Yeah, I would add some extra parameters to that in comparable experience. So obviously your seasonal raider isn't going to be a fair comparison against someone who's done 25 years military service.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about someone like Hadrada, whose life is...
Yeah, it's about a Hadrada, an actual noble who probably trained all of his life, ate relatively well, would do combat drills, served in the Imperial Army in Eastern Roman Empire.
Constantinople,
he's going to be, Chad.
Yeah, he is gonna be the Chad from the Chad versus
about,
Virgin meme.
Beyond armored Viking son or whatever who raids
armored Viking son.
Yeah, who raids the coast of East Anglia, kills a couple of peasants, maybe takes a frau back. I think they're still going to be fairly healthier than probably we are, but they're not going to be up to that same standard as like a Roman. If we're speaking about prime, I don't think, like, unfortunately, a Viking would win in that particular case.
Peak Roman army is a very impressive thing.
Yeah.
But I feel dirty just talking about that.
Yeah. Should we do the last question then?
Yeah, sure.
No.
The Ben Harvey, who yet again is another Patreon supporter and actually a member of my old group, and he's one of them Norman lot. Spends most of his time bothering mollusks. He's posted a picture of himself or his face superimposed on a rather hirsute swimwear model. Posing on a beach,
and the caption,
"Is this authentic?" But the act of sunbathing on a beach in your underwear, yeah, totally authentic for quite a lot of periods. Is it authentic, and is that an accurate representation of Ben Harvey? How do I put this delicately? The picture demonstrates him having a six-pack. Ben has a party 7.
I mean, I know Ben, albeit not very well, but I thought he was much like myself. We're keg boys.
Yeah, I might have just dated myself a little bit by saying party 7 instead of keg, but well, that's my burden to bear.
Watney's Red Barrel.
There is another question on there. I don't know if you've seen it, or if you want to reference that one.
Which one's that?
If you look at the
oh
bottom,
yes, yes.
I can answer it.
Up to have a look.
I'm happy to answer when we're all on the same page.
Yeah. Oh, is that the one from James Smith?
Yes,
that's right. Yes.
I'd
be able to answer that, except so the question is Woofer's problem very small cocks? And I would say no. Their problem is very small brains.
Just literally what I was going to say. That's literally no.
I'm sorry, I didn't realise that's what you were going to say.
No, that's great, man.
Well, that's us demonetized already.
Damn it.
Wait, we're making money off this?
Yeah,
we're too far through the podcast. YouTube will never pick it up now. Don't worry.
Damn, you just ruined my channel already.
I'm sorry.
No, so the kind of the crudeness of the question and the similarly crude response aside, it's one of those problems of a group that will refuse to take on criticism in any form. I've seen it since I started reenactment. Everything from, you do realize this item isn't quite correct, right through to the more salty accusation, so we say, and none of it has worked. None of it's landed home, and you still end up with.
There are people you can improve. Like there are people who will listen to actual information about the period, and then there are people who just refuse to listen to any of it because they disagree with you, and you will never change their mind.
It wouldn't be so. Here's the thing: my official stance on kit is I don't particularly care. You do you. However, that immediately changes to the fuck bringing mode engaged when you are doing such massive events, doing paid events, and you're demonstrating to a public and you're passing it off as legit. And when you see reviews on their webpage that say, from public that go, oh, we had a fantastic time, very entertaining, fine, great, you're entertaining. And then the public are writing reviews saying, we loved the authentic kit, which means that you've set
Get
up.
fucked.
You've set up living history, you've set up your kit, you've done your display, and you have worn kit that you must know is not 100% accurate.
But the sagas don't officially tell, and leather could obviously biodegrade inside the salt. That is my kit. But the problem is, and following on from what we said earlier on, they spend a lot of money trying to look cool because Vikings, Last Kingdom, this kind of period at the moment, it is all of the range. It's but especially when Vikings come out. Come on, I got into it myself, if I'm honest, because I watched Vikings. I was always.
I find the show very interesting. I just I appreciate it as a fantasy show though.
I watched Vikings prior to ever getting involved in this, and then I got involved initially, and I thought it was going to be LARP, and I was not really like bothered. In fact, I ripped a bit into my brother at the time because he was coming along, and he was like, it's cool. I was like, nah, mate, I don't want to go play LARP with you. Rather play video games. But like it helped. It definitely grew the hobby. Like there's already people interested, but like it's grown the hobby. But part of that then is you get this unauthentic viewpoint of what Supreme Kit is, and then you have traders out there that don't care. And not to use people's names, but if I was to go right now and post on I don't know, Viking Market Worldwide or whatever the hell they're bloody called now, okay, and I said I'm after Gambeson or I'm after some padding, I'm going to get some shit traders from the Middle East or Asia, and they're going to send me some stuff that Carpet Boy wouldn't even wear. But people will buy that stuff up, and they'll portray it off as Viking because some traders said, "Yeah, it's Viking, isn't it?"
That's it. Yeah.
I mean, there's Sorry, go on.
No. Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's a post on one of these virtual Viking hall recently, and there's a chap on there who posted some pictures of him doing kind of ritualistic stuff to an audience, and people asked quite, without any sort of sarcasm or snarkiness, they asked, "What are you teaching them? What aspect of this are you teaching them?" And they got word salad for the best part of 80 comments.
Is this the original virtual Viking hall? Before me and Tom made the better one.
Yes,
I got banned from posting on groups because telling people their kit looks shit is apparently bannable.
I've got a 7-day ban because I called a cunt yesterday.
But I've just gone on that page you mentioned, and the first page, the first picture that popped up for me was a Dane axe with a false hammer in the center.
It's now become a Facebook group that is the equivalent of like the last bastion of inauthentic Viking reenactors. It is really bad.
I cut out for a minute there. What are we discussing now? Sorry.
Oh, the virtual Viking hall. So to get
that's the first one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
To go back to the plot slightly. So he's teaching people about Seder and all this, and he says he's a Viking or use this word, and we're looking it up and going, well, the only reference to this word we have is from Asatru pages. What are you on about? And it goes on and on and on. He evades questions. Finally, we get through, and I did post it in here actually.
Oh, we should probably explain what Asatru is for anyone that doesn't know.
Modern day
It's basically a
Nazism.
modern
It's-
take on heathenry, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a mid 20th century heathenry group, from what I gather.
So it came about in the 70s, at least Odinism, the Odinic rite came about in the 70s,
Yeah.
which was the 9 noble virtues, but it was written down by 2 guys who were
One of them was the British Union of Fascists or something, wasn't
yeah,
it?
that's it. They were both members of
Oswald
that.
Mosley's lot.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So it's very modern, but a lot of people take it as actual Viking stuff. But yeah, so we got through these comments, and finally we got, as a response to what's your sources, was the only basis is my intuition. There are things that are not forgotten. So, which is kind of laughable, but when you're, this is someone who's been going around educating the public.
Oh dear.
And to kind of make a long story short, that's the bit I object to.
Yeah.
And that's
I mean,
kind of
call it whatever you want, as long as you're not trying to tell other people that that's what it is.
yeah. I mean, so that's kind of it's part of what sparked off Goatworn Armband and a lot of the influence to it, and I'm sure a lot of the motivation to just Eastern things.
I don't. I find it very cringy, if I'm honest with you, seeing a lot of this stuff. Around. I can see the point in it, and it's going to sound weird. I can see the point, and when some of this stuff is done right at an event, it's phenomenal. Okay, I'm gonna probably be sort of unpopular, but at Volin, there was a god's altar set up in the middle of the village. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. There's a village with proper buildings and everything, and it's phenomenal. It's got a wooden palisade around it. It could probably fit 300 people inside this village. Could have lived year round. And it's
So it's like a burr or something.
It's
town
beautiful,
burr.
man. Honestly, and the way they do stuff, there was somebody making bread. So they were grinding it up and making the flour and then baking bread. And then the lady I was literally getting my dinner from, she was buying the bread off the person. So this person had made a clay oven in the ground and they're making bread all day. It was so nice to see that sort of level of detail going on. But
Definitely.
the altar there, it was done, I suppose, in my view, done properly because it wasn't forced on anyone. It was there if people wanted it. If people didn't want to, partake in any of that stuff, they didn't have to. In Eastern, before any battle, we do, well, lack of other words, we do prayers, I guess. And that forms a very big part of proper Eastern reenactment scene. But my very first and only event I did where I was technically in the Free War Bands of England for all of a day was Battle of the Broads, and some old man come out and started saying some random ass shit, and he looked like a cross between that bald old man from Dragon Ball Z and a rug. And honestly, I'll never forget it because all of us were there, and we've all got hand poke tattoos. We all read about it up on my wall in front of me. I've got Tales of Norse Mythology. I've got what's that? Blood of the Vikings. I've got a couple of books up there that talk about the faith, I guess. But it was cringy as fuck. All of us, every single Eastern person, turned around and went back to our camp. Because we don't understand what that's.
You don't want to associate with that. It's just
I remember seeing someone added me to Stratu UK or something years ago, and I got added in there. Hello, I'm Mike or whatever. I'm in there, and the very first page I seen was somebody saying they seen a raven. Does that mean they're blessed by Odin? I commented, no, it's a raven. And
it's the same whole. The idea to have that runes as an inherent thing has some kind of magical power. Like if you dump a bag of pebbles on a floor with runes on them, and that'll mean something. No, it's an alphabet.
Yeah, and it's the same. And
I'll tell you what, guys, not to cut you short, but we've gone for an hour.
We have, an hour and 15 actually.
Hour and 15. And I think judging by how into this kind of question we've gotten into without really meaning
Yes,
to,
yeah,
this would make an excellent topic for future episode.
definitely.
So
Yes.
cool. So just some kind of closing thoughts. That kind of went well.
Yeah, it's been good fun.
That's that is as close to a fireside ramble as I've had in quite some time. So that was good fun to engage with. Hopefully we'll get some more questions for the next episode and ones in between. And ranging from the silly to the serious, and we'll answer appropriately.
I think next time I'll probably put some questions up on my page as well.
Oh yeah, that'd be good.
I'll
Yeah,
actually know more
get a
about
broad
it.
spectrum.
I'll do it on my one as well, definitely. We've got a date set in place. I'll put something up.
Well, we
Although
can
mine might be a
always
little bit more salty.
well, any kind of questions would be great because we can take as many or as few as we would like, and pick the best ones.
Cool. Awesome. So we'll leave it there. So just a reminder to people who've stuck with us this far and not wandered off to make a cup of tea. If you've got questions, comment in below wherever this video gets posted. On our various pages, Anglo-Saxon Posting, Guthrum of Norvik, Just Eastern Things, and of course Goatworn Armband. Inbox, put it on the relevant post when we put it up. Patreon supporters can message me through the Patreon. And something else we looked at, Spearman Supplies got a little bit of a shout out from me prior to the Jorvik festival. If anyone else is trading or wants a bit of publicity, we're directed at reenactors. We're reenactors ourselves. We'll help you out. Chuck us a message. We'll see what we can do. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from me and goodbye from Guthrum of Norvik.
Cheerio, lads.
Just Eastern Things.
See you later.
And the Shirereve.
Have a good one, guys.